The seniors graduate next Sunday. Nick has to go to graduation. He's vice president. Up until now, Sydney's been president and Nick's been vice president, his girlfriend. But Sydney went for the head of the student council. So she was president and Nick is vice president. So now we know.
As a team?
No, he didn't run for president. He was stuck with vice president. One of his friends is president. No, actually, I think it was all sitting, I was never going to popularity. Yeah, teachers' favorite. How they figure what so they have it behind. So they the junior class officers all participate in their job. Well, you got this, but I'm I don't know how much right. Because a lot of kids are graduating this year.
Without moving it further away or closer.
Right,
I'm
And there better not be variables or something that make it
I like to see what all the grammar is like.
They're all trying to get me. They're all trying to convince me to make sure we have somebody in teacher housing calls. And like the only fun part of that for me would be torturing Nick by being his teacher. It would just become it would become a game of county detention when I get my brother before I get fired.
You're probably too close in age. As to whether or not you want your sister in your
I'm going to get rid of that stuff. What did you
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get moving into the next phase of the afternoon here. Let's Let's begin with a prayer. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray together. Good and gracious God, again, we are thankful that you've gathered us here. So thankful for Nancy, the gift of light that she brought into our lives, gift of courage, gift of steadfast love. Be with us now as we celebrate, as we remember, and give honor in her memory. Be with us now, in Christ's name.
Amen.
Amen. So, we have a few things ahead of us. It's no secret that we know Nancy was a lover of music, was a part of the music ministry of this congregation, among other things. And so we have the bells, some choir pieces, and of course we will then end our time with some remembrances of Nancy. So, we'd like to bring the bells up. Do you have a few words about the pieces you have for us?
No. So this bell represents Nancy Durst.
What's the delivery? Name of the game. Lovely. Bell Choir, thank you. Before we bring the choir up, well, we did want to remind folks we've got plenty of food. If you'd like to take something with you, I believe the servers have a few things ready to bring along home. You can have another meal, and we thank you for that abundance that you've provided for everyone here. So good work, kitchen. Thank you. And now from the Messiah Choir, the first selection didn't come through due to rehearsal hiccup, but we have Hear Our Prayer. You would come up. And so now we'd like to remember Nancy. Well, we've got a few folks on the list here, but we will have an opportunity to open the mic here in a few minutes. So if you've got something you're thinking of, we look forward to hearing your memories as well. First we have Vaughn Wingfield.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. I was going to tell you a little bit about Nancy when she was growing up and some of the things she did that you people didn't know about, and also how we met. I know she's here today, and she would be so happy to see all of you here and celebrating her day. Nancy grew up in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. It's a suburb of Philadelphia. And her grandparents had a home in New Jersey, right on the shore. So she spent a lot of summers on the ocean and on the beach. In high school, she took a secretarial course. She was involved in music, in the chorus they had there, and dance. She loved ballet and Toulouse, and she played tennis. Her parents moved to Cleveland, and Nancy got a job at GE in the late 1950s as a secretary. She met when she was there, she met Nancy Patrick, who's here today, and Judy, and she met Argos and Hanslers at church when we joined this church. She had also met them at GE. Her boyfriend introduced her to a group called Nance, and it was a young adult group, single group, and was from First Presbyterian Church in East Cleveland. It was, she met another person, which some of you know, Ruthie Vincent, you know her as Ruthie Corson, who was also there and had been brought there by a friend. I knew Ruthie. Ruthie and I grew up in North Dakota. We met when we were juniors in high school because we both transferred to Fargo, North Dakota, to a Lutheran high school. And we were roommates for 2 years there. Then we went on across the river there to Moorhead, Minnesota, to Concordia College. And we were roommates for 2 years there. Well, Ruthie left because she got recruited by a person from Francis Payne Bolton School here to be a nurse. And she moved to Cleveland in the fall of '55, got a degree in '59. She had joined the man's group and had met Nancy. Meanwhile, I graduated from Concordia and taught for 2 years in Minnesota at Two Harbors, which is right on Lake Superior. Then I got a job here in Cleveland and Mayfield. And Ruthie and I kind of planned this ahead of time. And when I came here in I guess it was the fall of '59. Of course, I met up with Ruthie right away, and she took me to Mance, and there I met Nancy. So it's kind of a roundabout story. This was 60 years ago. By the summer of '60, Ruthie, a nurse, Nancy, a secretary, and me, a teacher, rented an apartment downstairs of a house in Cleveland Heights. We called it apartment GE. Some of you probably remember the comic strip. We could have produced our own comic strip from our adventures and misadventures. Like when we got, one night we went somewhere and all of us forgot our house key. Of course, the house was locked. We came home, tried to get in through a window. The neighbor called the police. The police came and finally decided, okay, we lived there, so they helped us get in. Nancy, at this time, while we lived there, thought she might want to go into music therapy. And so she started out by taking a psychology course at Western Reserve. She loved that course. It was really fascinating. We heard a lot about it when she came home with me. She auditioned for the Cleveland Orchestra course and got in. She sang for, I think it was 20 years or so under Robert Page. And when he retired, she was busy with her mom, who was sick at that time, so she didn't audition for the new choir. But she loved it. She was busy. 2 nights a week of practice, and if they had a concert, it was like 3 consecutive nights. So she was really busy with that and all her other activities. Next, she took a music theory course. This included recognizing chords, chord progressions, singing the chords in any key, and singing intervals in any key. We didn't have a piano, and so she practiced. She had to have the house totally quiet, and if Ruthie or I sneezed, she had a fit. But she only had a pitch pipe, and she would play the pitch pipe to one note, and then she would find the other. Well, she had a relative perfect pitch. It wasn't perfect, but it was relative. And so she caught on to this very quickly and became very good at it, which is probably one of the reasons she's in chorus. After a year, we moved to a second floor of a house, another house. It looked so neat when we walked in. When we moved in, it was filthy. I wish you could have seen the oven. It had actually charred bones in it. We scrubbed our fingers to the bone trying to get it cleaned up. Ruthie was dating Frank at this time, and when they got married, Nancy and I moved to Euclid into a, we really moved around a lot, into a double house. We were one side of a double house. At that time we were going to Messiah, we both were singing in choir, and Nancy was playing tennis, skiing with the group, still in chorus, still in choir, and just real busy. And I was too, but I was in different activities. At Christmas, she'd go to Florida to visit her parents who had retired there, and I'd go to Minnesota to visit mine. When I got married, Nancy moved into an apartment just briefly. But my husband passed away. When he passed away, I was 5 months pregnant with Sherry, and Nancy's moved in with me. She went to childbirth classes with me down in Western Reserve, or down at the University Hospitals. She was doing the exercises too. She was with me during labor, right in the room there where we were. We brought along crossword puzzles because we thought we were going to have time to do it. I was in no mood to do crossword puzzles. So Sherry was born on January 11th, and Nancy called my mother in Moorhead, Minnesota. Sherry was 2 weeks early, so my mother was coming out, but she wasn't there yet. And so she told my mother I was in labor and I was going to have the baby in a minute. My mother said, "You can't, I'm not there yet." Nancy got a kick out of my mother. In fact, at one time our mothers got together, and our mothers, Nancy's mother and mine, were chatterboxes. They talked constantly and didn't listen. We didn't know what would happen when they got together, but they really were pretty good. I think Nancy and I were a little disappointed. Nancy stayed with me for a while, stayed with us and was a big help when Sherry was little and even after my mother came. When Nancy left, she went to an apartment, but very briefly, that's when she bought her house. And she was just thrilled with having a house and not having to live in apartments anymore. Sometimes Nancy and I only saw each other at choir or in a church. And we were both so busy with our own lives. I was teaching, and of course, I was bringing up Sherry. And but her dad passed away, and her mother came to live with her during the time soon after she got the house. In the summertime, she'd go back to Florida in the wintertime because she had an asthma problem. Over the years, this is when I was teaching, Nancy had trips to Europe with the chorus and concerts here. She had a trip to Hawaii with her family. I'd hear about these things, but I was never part of it. And trip with Judy, who's here today, out west, and I think you had some other trips too, didn't you? Yeah. And all I remember about the one out west was the story Nancy told of. She went mountain climbing, Judy didn't go. Nancy said Judy stayed home and prayed. She went with Nancy Patrick, who's also here, to Scotland, and had a really good time there. And went with, and then she'd go on ski trips and everything, or skiing. She skied around here. Well, at one time she dislocated her shoulder, and that ended her skiing. But she loved to travel. Then she got Honey, her dog. That's in the picture over there. Honey was a poodle, and I think she had him for about 15 years. And she just loved that dog. That was her child, her son. And he had the life of a prince. She was lucky because her groomer was a friend of Nancy's, and the groomer loved Honey too. So whenever Nancy went on these trips, the groomer would take Honey, and Honey was perfectly happy staying with her. Even though she had cats, he became friends with the cats. Then, when after Nancy and I retired, we got to take trips. And that's most of my pictures are the trips that Nancy and I took together. Nancy, we retired. Sherry was grown up and having her own family, and we're in college, and then later having her own family. And we went to Arizona to see Ruthie and Corzens. We went to California to Kathy's, that's Ruthie's daughter's wedding. That was a wonderful trip. There's a picture over there of Nancy petting a dog. Well, we stayed on a motel that was right on the ocean. And so we went walking on the beach. Well, one part of the beach was a dog area with their owners. There were about 20 dogs there. I think Nancy got to know about 15 of them. I thought we were going to miss the wedding. I couldn't get her away. After Nancy, then we went to, I went to Florida with her, met her family, and then we took a trip to Smoky Mountains and around there. There's some pictures of that over there too, where we were almost blown away on the top of Grandfather Mountain. But it was a fun time. We took a trip up the coast of California on a train to Carson City, Nevada, where we stayed with my cousin who lives there. And so she met my relatives, I met all hers, and she took trips with me to Moorhead. She'd only had two, we had both retired, so we had more time in the summer to do these things. So anyway, that was kind of our trips. Oh, we went to the Canadian Rockies. That was a fun trip. And then the trip on the Caribbean with Nancy Patrick, I think that was really, I know they both teased me about walking along the deck taking pictures of the ocean, but Nancy was having some back trouble then. She couldn't always walk with Nancy Patrick and I. But we had a lot of fun on the trip. That's when we went on the ships over there, and the sailing ships. Nancy was in charge of the sails. She somehow she had driven her father's boat. He had a boat on the Gulf of Mexico. So anyway, she got on this boat and she had whatever that wheel was that turned the sails, but someone was telling her what to do. Well, when the person told her what to do, he didn't pronounce her name right. It was Nancy, turn right. She was turning left for all she was worth. Nancy Patrick and I were kind of scared on that trip. That was the regatta. We came in third. There were about 7 ships, and we came in third. In the rainforest, Nancy wanted to zip line. We talked her out of it. It didn't look too safe. I mean, it was fine. They used it for tourists all the time. But when you landed on the platforms, it was with a kind of a big bump. And she had her shoulder, and she had arthritis, and she had broken her ankle one time. So we just talked her out of it. So did her doctor. So anyway, but that's kind of our life up to then. A group of us for years have been going to, on Friday night, have been going to pizza place at Pizzazz. And that's always been a fun time, and a lot of fun conversation. And we're always laughing. In fact, sometimes the people in other groups look at us as if they wish we would leave. But Nancy was often the instigator of these things. She was really fun. Seriously though, Nancy was a caretaker. She took care of Nancy Patrick and I, after we had surgery. And she stayed with us. She didn't have to do a lot, but she had to stay there just in case of some emergency would come up where we would need help. She liked to talk to people. She liked to help people. She helped her neighbors. And remember Lisa Lotta here in church, who helped her. And she just was a caretaker at heart. And talking to people and helping them fulfilled her. She really, if she would talk to people and she couldn't help them, she sometimes felt guilty. But we tried to talk her out of that, but she just would worry. Nancy Patrick and I visited her when she was sick, and she liked to just keep the conversation normal. So we often used the tactics we did over at Pizzazz, or just got together and talked and had a lot of fun and reminisced about a lot of the things we did. But she really cared for people, and I know that we talk about Nancy's smile and her sense of humor and everything, and it was wonderful. But she was a caretaker. It was great. At Thanksgiving we got together, and she was still pretty good at Thanksgiving. This was after she got her diagnosis, and she was still pretty good at Thanksgiving time. And she ate a lot. Honestly, she ate twice as much as I ever do on Thanksgiving. And she just enjoyed every minute of it. And then at Christmas time, she went over to her place, Steve and Irene's, where she knew, and Nancy was there too, and the whole family. And she had a good time there. But that was the last time she went out. And it was in the last part of January that she really went downhill. And but we would try and lift her spirits, and she was pretty good. She had to have her scotch every once in a while, so we'd have scotch with her. And but she really had a good life, and she had lots of friends, because she was such a friend. She was a super friend. Her smile and hugs will stay with us for a long time, and it was just a special thing to be her friend.
Thanks so much, Vaughn. Who else has a story to share? Come on up. Another close.
Nancy was my friend too. She had an infectious spirit, and she would just add to every situation. But what I want to read to you today is some words from our choir director, Vicki Lester. And she wrote these words because she could not be here. Nancy Durst, our friend, our soprano, our bell ringer, our Libby sitter, our confidant. My name is Vicki Lester. I'm just going to read it as she printed it. I direct Messiah's choir and teach voice and piano lessons. Nancy and Shirley Wozniak were my first lessons after lunch on Tuesdays. They would come in, sit at the dining room table, lay their money down, and begin our 1-hour lesson. Depending on what problems needed solving, we might never make it to the piano to sing. Nancy and Shirley told me this hour was the cheapest therapy session around. However, when we sang, the sun came out and the birds sang. It was wonderful and fun. What did we sing, you ask? You name it. Old musicals, new musicals, old hymns, pop songs, and great warm-ups. What they did not like was we did not sing, period. What they did not like, we did not sing. My husband, Michael, was in charge of tuning Nancy's piano. I always wondered why it took him so long to tune it. Then I found out. Nancy always had a snack, a conversation, and maybe a bottle of wild turkey. And some questions about her computer. Then there was Libby, our dog. Libby loved Nancy, and Nancy loved Libby. Whenever Libby saw Nancy going into church, she would basically jerk the leash out of Michael's hand and run to greet her. Every card we received had a dog on it. They were the perfect cards. Libby misses her friend too. As we try to fill the hole in our heart that was Nancy, we keep her memory alive. Nancy was a one-of-a-kind woman, and we love her.
Perfect. Who else has a story or two to share? Chris, come on up. Right up to it.
Thank you. Nancy, Vaughn mentioned was in chorus. And she told me that when she got into chorus, she was waiting because it was Cleveland chorus was a very big deal, Her parents were in town, and she opens the letter, and she's so excited, she gets it. Her parents are just standing there, and she said, "All right, folks, a little enthusiasm here." But I have a blouse that ties, and every time I would wear this to church, and I'd see Nancy, she'd say, come here, and she said, "You don't know how to tie that tie right." She said, in Cleveland chorus, no one knew how to tie those ties, and that's what we wore. And she said, I tied everybody's ties all through Europe. But this is the thing that Nancy and I did together, is groups like this for church after memorials or funerals. So we miss her. But we would go shopping, and we'd be in a store, and somebody would come, and they're looking for something. Nancy would go and help them. Well, not exactly what kind of chocolate was that, with the nuts or without nuts. And she was just so helpful. We're in line, and there's a man behind her and say, "Oh, I don't know." "Well, what do you want? I'll go get it for you." But that was so Nancy. But thank you, everybody, for coming. We so appreciate that. I want to thank Vaughn, thank Pastor, all the volunteers. We thank you. Everybody's giving cookies, who's helped. So again, thank you, everybody. And later, we will have a little basket for free will offering for food if you'd like to take some home.
Okay. All right, if you all would stand, let's end together with the Lord's Prayer. Lord, remember us in your kingdom and teach us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Peace along the way, friends. So thankful for our presence together and Nancy's memories that carry us along. Peace.